In a world obsessed with high-tech gardening tools, synthetic fertilizers, and digital climate trackers, the Amish have quietly cultivated lush, productive gardens using nothing more than faith, patience, and time-tested wisdom. Their approach to gardening is completely off-grid, yet remarkably effective. Through generations of careful observation and disciplined living, the Amish have developed hacks that maximize yield, minimize waste, and nurture both the land and the soul. And perhaps most impressively, they do it all without electricity, commercial pesticides, or artificial shortcuts. Amish gardens are not just food sources, they're lifelines. These gardens feed large families year-round, often with enough left over to can, dry, pickle, or ferment for winter months. Every square foot of soil is treated as a gift, and every plant is sown with intention. The success of these gardens isn't accidental. It is the result of practical techniques passed down for generations. Techniques that may seem simple at first, but are deeply rooted in experience and natural law. What makes Amish gardening so fascinating is how resourceful and self-sustaining it is. They use homemade fertilizers, simple tools, and natural pest control methods that outperform many commercial products. They know how to work with the seasons, not against them. They grow heirloom varieties that resist disease and offer better nutrition. Their gardens are not just beautiful. They're bountiful and balanced, often bursting with produce without the need for outside inputs. These gardening hacks are not hidden. They are visible in the neat rows, the rotating beds, and the well-fed soil of every Amish homestead. Yet they remain a mystery to many modern growers, overlooked in favor of high-cost gardening gadgets and complex systems. But once you begin to understand these methods, it becomes clear. The Amish have unlocked a secret rhythm between land and life. In the next 4 parts, we'll dive deep into 50 of the most powerful gardening hacks the Amish use every season. These are not quick fixes or gimmicks. They are simple, profound solutions that make gardening easier, more sustainable, and more in tune with nature's design. From compost secrets and pest control tricks to watering wisdom and companion planting, these are the tools of a lifestyle that prizes humility over hype and harvests over headlines. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or someone just planting their first tomato seed, these Amish gardening hacks could transform the way you grow forever. Not because they are flashy, but because they work. And in a world where growing your own food has never been more important, that's the kind of wisdom you'll wish you knew sooner. Soil secrets, compost wisdom, and raised bed ingenuity. The success of any garden begins with soil, and the Amish know this better than anyone. Their first and most essential hack is building living soil, rich, dark, and full of microbial life. They avoid commercial chemical fertilizers and instead rely on time-tested composting techniques that rejuvenate the land year after year. One common practice is layering compost with aged manure, straw, and green waste, letting it break down slowly over time into a nutrient-dense humus. This compost is turned with a shovel or pitchfork and applied generously to garden beds before planting season. By using what the farm or homestead naturally produces, kitchen scraps, grass clippings, wood ash, and livestock manure, the Amish create a self-sustaining loop that continually feeds the soil without ever needing synthetic products. Another powerful soil hack involves the use of wood ash from their stoves and fireplaces. Rather than discarding it, the Amish scatter small amounts of wood ash over their garden beds, especially for crops like tomatoes, beans, and squash. This ash provides potassium and lime, balancing soil acidity and enriching the ground naturally. When used sparingly and mixed with compost, it becomes a free, effective soil amendment that promotes flowering and fruiting. One of the most underrated Amish hacks is their use of deep digging and double digging. In early spring, before any seeds are sown, they turn the soil to a depth of 2 spade lengths, loosening compacted earth and creating room for roots to spread deep and wide. This technique aerates the soil, improves drainage, and increases moisture retention. It's labor-intensive, but it transforms even the heaviest clay soil into a fertile bed ready for robust growth. When it comes to structure, many Amish families swear by raised beds built from untreated wood, logs, or even mounded earth. These beds warm up earlier in the spring, drain more efficiently during wet spells, and are easier to maintain. Because Amish gardens are usually large and managed by hand, raised beds allow for better weed control and crop rotation. They're typically no more than 4 feet wide, allowing the gardener to reach the center without stepping into the bed, preserving the delicate structure of the soil. One remarkable aspect of Amish gardening is how they test their soil, not with kits or meters, but by feel, look, and smell. A handful of rich, earthy-smelling soil that clumps lightly when squeezed is the ideal. They learn from the soil year after year, adjusting compost inputs or bed layout based on what each section of land seems to need. This intimate knowledge of the earth fosters healthier gardens than any lab-tested formula ever could. These foundational hacks, living compost, ash amendments, deep soil turning, raised beds, and hands-on testing, are not shortcuts. They are deeply intentional practices that make the garden a living, breathing space. The Amish don't just grow plants, they grow the soil first, because they know that when the soil is healthy, everything else follows. Strong roots, bountiful harvests, and fewer pests all begin underground, in the quiet, unseen world that they've learned to nurture with love, patience, and reverence. Water wisdom, natural pest control, and seed-saving traditions. Amish gardeners understand that water is precious, not just in times of drought, but in every season. One of their most effective hacks is early morning watering. By watering before the sun rises too high, they ensure plants absorb moisture when it's needed most, and evaporation is minimized. This timing also prevents mildew and fungus by allowing foliage to dry before nightfall. The Amish often rely on rain barrels and gravity-fed irrigation systems using stored rainwater collected from barn roofs or house gutters. These barrels are fitted with simple spigots or hoses and positioned slightly above the garden level so water can flow downward without the need for pumps. Rather than sprinklers or automated timers, they water by hand or with slow-release techniques like clay pots or buried jugs with holes. These are filled with water and placed beside root systems to deliver steady moisture without overwatering. In times of scarcity, this method allows them to grow thriving gardens with remarkably little water waste. Mulching is another key water-saving tactic. They place thick layers of straw, dried leaves, or grass clippings around the base of plants to trap moisture, suppress weeds, and keep the soil cool. When it comes to pests, the Amish do not rely on store-bought insecticides. Instead, they use natural pest deterrents that have worked for generations. A common method is planting companion crops, marigolds beside beans to deter beetles, basil near tomatoes to repel aphids, and onions near carrots to confuse pests with conflicting scents. For larger intruders like rabbits or deer, they use homemade garlic or hot pepper sprays, or hangbags of human hair, soap shavings, or aluminum pie pans to scare animals away. Some Amish families even grow trap crops, plants more attractive to pests than their main harvest. Radishes might be planted at the edge of a cabbage patch, luring flea beetles away from the cabbages themselves. Once the trap crop is overwhelmed, it is removed entirely, taking the pests with it. It's a patient, low-intervention system rooted in balance rather than aggression. One of the most cherished Amish practices is seed saving. Rather than buying packets each year, they harvest seeds from their healthiest, most productive plants. Tomatoes, beans, cucumbers, and lettuce are especially easy to save and are passed down from one growing season to the next. Seed saving ensures that plants become increasingly adapted to the specific soil and climate of the family's homestead. It's a quiet rebellion against dependence on commercial agriculture and a powerful act of self-reliance. Seeds are cleaned, dried, and stored in paper envelopes, glass jars, or fabric pouches, labeled and organized by season and variety. Over time, these collections become family treasures. A single jar of bean seeds might carry not only years of food security, but also the memories of the hands that harvested them. Through seed saving, the Amish keep genetic diversity alive and preserve old-world varieties that modern agriculture has forgotten. Crop rotation, seasonal timing, and yield maximization. The Amish don't chase instant results. They think in seasons, in years, and sometimes even in decades. One of their most effective gardening hacks is the age-old practice of crop rotation. They understand that planting the same crop in the same soil year after year depletes essential nutrients and invites pests and disease. So they rotate families of vegetables across their garden beds, often using a 3- or 4-year cycle. Legumes like peas and beans are followed by heavy feeders like corn or squash, and then lighter feeders like carrots or onions. This simple rotation strategy revitalizes the soil, naturally suppresses pests, and increases long-term productivity without needing any store-bought additives. Along with rotation comes a profound understanding of seasonal timing. Amish gardeners live by the phases of the moon, frost dates, and years of observation. They often plant leafy greens like lettuce and spinach during the waxing moon, and root vegetables like potatoes and beets during the waning moon, following a lunar calendar that aligns with moisture and soil energy. While some might scoff at this old-fashioned method, generations of success give it weight and wisdom that's hard to deny. Another powerful hack is succession planting, which ensures continuous harvests throughout the growing season. Rather than planting one long row of carrots or beans all at once, the Amish stagger plantings every 2 or 3 weeks. This keeps their tables full and their canning shelves stocked without overwhelming them all at once. In late summer, they start fall crops like kale, cabbage, and radishes to extend the growing season well into the cooler months. This rhythm of planting and replanting transforms a single garden bed into a year-round provider of nourishment. Interplanting is also key. Amish gardeners will often plant fast-growing crops like radishes or lettuce between slower growers like tomatoes or cabbages. This method not only maximizes space, but also shields the soil from erosion and suppresses weeds. Tall plants provide shade for tender seedlings, and strong-smelling herbs help mask the scent of vulnerable crops. This results in a thriving micro-ecosystem that uses every inch of space and every layer of growth to its advantage. Perhaps most impressively, the Amish have mastered manual yield monitoring. They don't rely on software or spreadsheets. They pay attention. They walk through their gardens daily, noting how much each variety is producing, how healthy the leaves are, how quickly the fruit is ripening. They make small, immediate adjustments, pruning, supporting, weeding, not in response to alarms or apps, but because their eyes and hands are constantly in contact with the soil. This attentiveness leads to higher yield, healthier plants, and fewer surprises. All of these strategies, rotation, lunar planting, succession sowing, interplanting, and real-time observation, are not flashy, but they are devastatingly effective. The Amish don't just hope their gardens will thrive. They ensure it by following principles that work in any climate, with any budget, and under any circumstances. It's not perfection they chase, it's balance. And through that balance, they reap far more than food. They harvest security, continuity, and peace of mind. Harvesting, storage hacks, and the spiritual rhythm of Amish gardening. When it comes time to harvest, the Amish don't treat it as an event. They treat it as a season. Harvesting is done in stages with precision, humility, and immense care. One of their lesser-known gardening hacks is harvesting in the early morning when the plants are still cool and full of moisture. This timing preserves freshness and reduces wilting. Leaves, fruits, and stems hold up better, especially when picked by hand and immediately brought into cool, shaded areas. Larger harvests are stored temporarily in root cellars or spring houses to maintain freshness without refrigeration. Post-harvest, Amish storage methods are nothing short of brilliant in their simplicity. Root vegetables like carrots, beets, and potatoes are layered in barrels of sand or sawdust. Apples are wrapped in newspaper and spaced in wooden crates to avoid bruising. Onions and garlic are braided and hung in rafters where air circulates freely. Cabbage heads are left with outer leaves intact and stored on shelves in cool, dry barns. These techniques allow produce to last deep into winter without electricity, methods that modern survivalists have only recently begun to rediscover. The Amish are also masters of outdoor cold frames and mini greenhouses, which extend the season on both ends. Using repurposed windows or heavy-duty plastic stretched over wooden frames, they create sheltered boxes that trap heat and allow hardy greens to grow even after frost sets in. These cold frames are often placed on the southern side of barns or homes to catch the most sunlight and are opened manually each morning for airflow. It's a simple, effective solution that gives them access to fresh food long after most gardens have gone dormant. When winter does arrive in full, the Amish don't stop gardening. They begin planning and repairing. Tools are sharpened, seed inventories are updated, and maps of last season's garden layouts are drawn by hand. Seed catalogs, often mailed from heirloom suppliers, are studied by lamplight. There's a quiet beauty in this preparation, a sacred pause before the rush of spring. Winter is not wasted. It's part of the cycle, and the Amish embrace it as deeply as they do planting or harvesting. But perhaps the most powerful hack of all is not technical, it is spiritual. For the Amish, gardening is not just a chore or hobby, it is a form of prayer. Working the soil is an act of obedience to God, a way of honoring His creation. Every weed pulled, every seed sown, every row hoed is done with gratitude and intention. Children are taught to care for plants, not because it's practical, but because it builds character and reminds them of their dependence on the earth and the Creator who made it. In the Amish worldview, a successful garden isn't just measured by how many tomatoes you pick. It's measured by how deeply you lived in tune with the land. It's measured by how well you worked alongside your family, how wisely you stewarded what you were given, and how calmly you accepted what nature returned. That is the essence of these 50 gardening hacks. Not just clever methods, but windows into a way of life. In a world where gardening has become overcomplicated and commercialized, the Amish remind us that simplicity, devotion, and rhythm are enough. Their gardens are not just productive, they are peaceful, patient, and profoundly human. And once you begin to adopt even a few of their ways, you may find not just better vegetables, but a better connection to the earth, and perhaps to yourself.